We come together when anti-Semitism is on the rise. According to the ADL, anti-Semitic incidents across America doubled between 2015 and 2018. And in 2018 alone, more than 200 of those incidences took place here in New Jersey, the third highest in the nation. The most horrific of these acts, from Jersey City to Muncie to Pittsburgh to Poway, have shaken us to our core. They have invoked a history of violence against Jews that many of us would like to believe are relics of the past, but we cannot afford to be that naive. For when these events take place alongside other anti-Semitic incidents, desecration of Jewish cemeteries, swastikas painted on schools, harassment of Jewish journalists, broken windows in synagogues, we remember that anti-Semitism is not dead, but dormant, and all too easily awoken by those who would stoke hate. The stoking of that hate comes in many forms. We see it from the left and the right when politicians spout anti-Semitic conspiracies about Jews funding invasions of migrants, or using money to control Congress, or blaming Israel for all of the Middle East problems. We see it when leaders fail to denounce neo-Nazis marching in the streets of Charlottesville, or downplay the threat of white nationalism worldwide. We see it when tech giants not only shrug off anti-Semitism online, but profit from its spread on social media. And we see it flourish in radical fringe groups that represent people of all backgrounds, colors, and persuasions. Anti-Semitism is like a cancerous tumor that grows larger with every act carried out in its name. And slowly, these acts create a permission structure that tells even more misguided people that it's okay somehow to act out on the hatred in your heart. A signal that says it's okay somehow to paint a swastika on a school, or beat people on the streets of Brooklyn just for how they look or dress, use anti-Semitic slurs online, or fire on peaceful worshipers in a synagogue. In this climate, it's no surprise that many Jewish families feel uncertain about whether it's safe to send their children to a Jewish school, or go shopping at a Jewish deli, or even place a menorah in their windows during the Hanukkah Festival of Lights. That's why, in times like these, it's incumbent on people of all faiths and backgrounds to stand up and say without equivocation that anti-Semitism has no place in our communities, in our state, or in this country, period. An attack on one is an attack on all of us, regardless of how we worship or what we look like. That gun violence or violence for that matter of any nature has no place in America, period. That in a country founded on ideals like religious freedom and equal rights, everyone should be able to worship without fear, period. We know that nothing can bring back the 11 members of the Tree of Life congregation murdered that fateful day. Nothing can bring back the lives claimed by hate last year in Poway, California, or just a few weeks ago in Jersey City. Nothing can fill the hole left behind in the hearts of their families, their friends, their colleagues, their fellow worshipers. But my friends, make no mistake, some things can be done to combat the growing threat of anti-Semitism in this country. In my mind, we need to educate our children that because someone looks different or prays in a different way, that they are just as precious in God's sight as those of us who look or worship in a different way than them. That tolerance and a respect for the diversity of our people is critical for a better future. Some things can be done to shore up the security of Jewish schools and synagogues and other minority institutions, which I'm working with others and leading in the fight in the Senate to realize. And surely some things can be done to disarm hate and reduce gun violence across this nation, something I will not stop fighting for until the day that common sense gun safety reforms become law. And I'll continue And I'll continue to do what I do as the senior Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We get opportunities to meet with different heads of state from different parts of the world. Corey's on the committee. He's often been there at these private coffees, off the record, where you get to talk to a head of state. And I have made it my singular focus that when I have a head of state that is a head of state of a country in which we see a rising tide of anti-Semitism in their country, that in the 5 or 10 minutes that I get, to press them about what they're doing about anti-Semitism in their country. And it's always very interesting to see. They snap their head back when I raise this as a question to them, because they're used to that the conversation is about our bilateral relations, economic relations, security relations, trade issues, but it's very rare that someone raises the issue of anti-Semitism with them. And I do it because I want them to know that a senior member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and of the United States Senate is going to judge our relationship with them about what they're doing in anti-Semitism in their own countries. So I'll continue to stand up for the right of Jews to live in safety and peace from New Jersey to New York, from Paris to Jerusalem and beyond. And as the ranking Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I'll continue pressing foreign leaders about the rise of anti-Semitism in their countries. Because wherever anti-Semitism rears its ugly head, we know that racial hatred, nationalism, and violence are not far behind. And all of us have a role in combating hate. This is something I've been passionate about for decades, something that I fought for all the way to my days in the state legislature, when a group calling themselves the Dot Busters assaulted members of our Hindu community. The community came to me and said, "We are being hurt, we need your help, what can you do?" And I realized that at the time that if you committed a crime against a property that was motivated by hate, there'd be a higher penalty, but if you committed a crime against another individual because of hate, there was no such penalty. It was then that I wrote and passed New Jersey's bias crime law, because while we may not be able to eradicate hatred from someone's heart, we can send a societal message that we do not tolerate crimes of hate of any kind. It took years to pass, just as it took years in Congress to pass the Matthew Shepard Act, which finally made it a hate crime to commit violence against anyone based on their race or religion or sexual orientation. Now is the time for robust enforcement, both at the state and federal level. And if we need more reforms to combat hate in the 21st century, we will write them and fight for them until they become law. We will not let bigotry and violence intimidate us, all of us. Not here, not now, not ever. So let this be a day that we stand up against hate, that we stand up against violence, and that together we stand up for the beautiful diversity that makes this country unique among nations, and the Jewish community that contributes so much to what makes New Jersey great. As your senator, you have my hand in friendship and the power of my office to do everything possible so that you are safe and secure and free to practice your religion and your way of life as you see fit, which is in the very essence of the American spirit. It's not only Jews who can practice the effort of Tikkun Olam. All of us can be practicing that effort to repair the world. And I hope it starts here today with each and every one of us. Thank you very much.